We've talked about a new life. We talked about a new look. We talked about a new loyalty and a new language. And today it is my pleasure to bring to you a world traveler. It is my pleasure to bring to you my wife of 25 years. She'll tell you 24, but I'm already celebrating 25. God has done some great things. You have a pastor's wife who her motto during this trip was, Lord, whatever you have for me. And I pray that will be contagious this year. That whether or not we know, whether or not we understand, whether or not we like it, we are standing in the midst with an open heart, open mind, and saying, God, whatever you want. So, she has some things to share, and she told me, why did you have me share? I said, because it's all fresh, and you'll say it and say it well.
No, the truth is he knew what jet lag felt like. And so he thought, well, I'll just have her speak. So if I happen to this has been brutal. The jet lag has been brutal. I have not left my house since we've been home Wednesday morning. This is the first time coming to church. So if I doze off randomly during my sermon here, it's not because I'm boring. It's just this is what's been going on. I feel like my head's still in the clouds. And I told him, I said, you know, when we got to Thailand, we hit the pavement running. But when we came home, we just hit the pavement. That's exactly how I feel. But you know, he said to me before that I was in the rotation to speak for this 40 days. And so I knew that it was coming. It wasn't something that I was unaware of, that I would be speaking when we got back. And before we left, I thought, Lord, you know what I'm supposed to be sharing. You know what I'm going to experience for this next couple weeks is going to fit into what you would have me sharing a new longing looks like. Because I do believe 2016 is going to be different.
Amen.
I really
Amen.
do. It's starting out different. I feel different. It's going to be different. And he is so faithful to just, when we ask, to do what we ask. And I asked him, Lord, I need something that goes along with what we're speaking. And he just filled my heart. And I don't think there is a possible way to express everything that we experienced while we were gone. There will be things that I am chewing on for a lifetime. Some of them are just for me. So let me start by saying, Swadika. I have learned a few Thailand words. One of my favorite was sabai, sabai, which means relax. Don't worry about it. So you'll probably be hearing that one because I don't worry about it. Well, as you probably have gathered, I have a new love for elephants. Yes? I have my elephant bracelet, and I mean, just look at him. They are amazing. I even got elephant earrings. I pulled my husband's elephant tie out from the first time he went to Thailand. These are amazing animals. A gentle giant with such soft eyes, and they mother a lot like I do. They're very, very protective. They're very intelligent. They're very loyal, and they can paint. And we witnessed them painting. Yeah, that one was kissing me. That took me back a little bit because I thought he was going to, first he put his hat on me and then he just kissed my cheek, and it was like, whoa. But they can paint, and there's the paint there. It's actually pretty amazing. They paint better than I do. So we'll have something of that to share because we were able to get a couple. And their dung is useful. Yeah, they make paper out of elephant dung. It's pretty awesome. And you can see we visited the elephant poo-poo paper factory. And it was cool. It was really cool. It didn't smell. You know, you'd think as they're boiling this poo that it would smell. Well, the first week in January, I shared the message, A New Life, A New Understanding. And I shared Luke 9:23. When Jesus said, if you want to be my disciple, you must deny yourself, take up your cross daily, and follow me. And I talked about how there is a difference between being a Christian and being a disciple. That a disciple is more than just a follower. A disciple will adhere completely, stay attached, cleave, give total allegiance to the one they are following, making them their rule of life, their rule of conduct, meaning you act just like them. A disciple is a pupil, a student of the teacher. A disciple cleaves to the person's teaching and takes up all of the ways of the one that they are following. And Jesus says in Luke that to be his disciple, you must deny yourself, give up your rights, deny yourself of your own judgments, your own opinions, your own actions, and your judgments, your rights, and your opinions become his. Well, we all have longings. And as you can see here, that tiger was longing to bite me. And anyone crazy enough to get in a cage with a few tigers deserves to be bit. But we all have longings. A longing is a strong, persistent desire or craving, especially for something distant, and sometimes it's unobtainable. Well, as a disciple of Jesus, our longings change when we commit our whole selves to Jesus. Our desires change. And we become like Moses in Exodus 33. If your presence does not go with me, do not send us. And when our number one desire is Jesus, we will have that attitude as well. Lord, where your presence is not, I will not go. Psalms 42:1 says, just like the deer that craves streams of water, my whole being craves you, God. My whole being thirsts for God, the living God. Ecclesiastes 3:11 says, he has also set eternity in the hearts of men. That's a longing. Yet they cannot fathom what God has done from beginning to end. Well, you've probably heard it said that there is a God-shaped void in all of us that only he can fill. And the problem is we can't fathom what God has done from beginning to end, so we try to fill our hearts, the void, the longing, with other things, when he's there all the time knocking and just waiting for us to answer. The population of Thailand is over 67 million people, and I am convinced that every one of them was at this, they call this the Sunday night shopping street. I can't even, the words are not to describe this. It was just streets full of shops, and I am not kidding. 67 million people must have been there that night. There was no way to shop because you were just, people come from all over the world to experience this shopping street. So 67 million people in Thailand. The population of Chiang Mai, the province and where we were, is almost 3 million. We spent some time in the hill tribes, but most of our time was spent in Chiang Mai. And as you can see, this is what I picture Thailand looking like. Not that crazy shopping street, but this is what I pictured it to look like. And you can see some of the hill tribe people, where they live, the long necks. You talk about a longing. They were longing for their necks to get longer. And the more, these little girls, they start out with these rings at 5 years old. And it is just incredible. And the longer they get, the more beautiful they are supposed to feel about themselves. And this is just some pictures of some of the, this is how they make their living. They make the stuff right there, and then they sell it to the people who come to visit the villages. So there was 5 different tribes in that village that we figured or visited then. Well, Thailand is 98% Buddhist. So you have 67 million people, 98% of them are Buddhist. This was unreal for me. The number of Watts temples that are built to Buddha in the province that we were in was over 18,000, or 1,800, excuse me. They are everywhere. So you have on one side of the hill complete and total poverty. And on the other side of the hill, this is gold. This isn't spray paint. This is honest to goodness gold. That Buddha up there is solid jade. So you have complete poverty on one side, and then you have complete darkness on the other. You talk about an empty longing. The eternity that God has placed in every one of our hearts, these people are trying to fill by going to these Buddhist temples, poor people, very poor people, giving everything they have to these temples in hopes to improve their karma, their lot in life. And as I watch these people, and you can see, I mean, it was just incredible, and they're praying and they're walking around these Buddhist statues, and I found myself so thankful yet so sick inside, because I know the truth. The Most High does not dwell in temples made by human hands. Amen. And I wanted to stand on top of there and scream that. Worshipping Buddha leaves these people with a longing that cannot be filled. Then we went to another dynamic, which was the children's homes. If they would just sell some of those Buddhas, it would be, yeah. Well, some of these children from this particular home here are from the hill tribes. Their parents work in the fields and they can't afford to take care of them. So they bring their children to these children homes, these orphanages, and then for maybe 3 months out of the year, the children might return to their villages if their parents can return to get them. If not, this is where they spend their time, and you can see they sleep on the floor, and they knew we were coming, so they made their beds. In this particular village, there has been many reports of abuse. There has even been reports of children being sold. So when their parents come back to get them, the children are not there. They're told that their child has ran away. In case you didn't know, Thailand is the epicenter for human trafficking. It is huge. So you have the longing to return to home, to family. Sometimes it's a longing for a meal. You can see it in their eyes. Sometimes there just isn't enough to feed these children. And because Cornerstone supports LCI, Logos Communications, they help support these children's homes. And when we went that day, we took eggs and rice and chocolate milk along with hats and scarves. And you're saying hats and scarves in Thailand? Well, when it gets 50 degrees or below, those people freeze. There was even some reports of deaths from some of the hill tribe people. This is another one of the homes. This one was better. The spirit was different, and you knew that the children, the people who were taking care of their children, their number one desire was the children, and you knew Jesus was being taught. The face and the little peace sign from this little girl, she had put this chalk all over her face, and just precious in the babies. And then on one of the children's home, and I took a picture of it because I was just like, wow, Matthew 5:5, blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. People who have nothing. And that is what they hang on to. We were able to sing with them, and we also took blankets and chocolate milk, and they don't get treats. There was some candy. But yet there's still a longing in those eyes. Even though they may be a little bit better taken care of, there's still a longing in those eyes. A longing to be loved, to feel more secure, to be accepted. And then the next one is Agape House. And agape means unconditional love, God's unconditional love. And this orphanage started with one woman's longing to see children born with HIV to die knowing that they are loved. And she knew the power of physical touch, and that no one, especially a child, should die alone. And this is what she did in the beginning. She brought the children home to die. And 20 years later, Avis Rideout is still going strong. You can see her in the middle there. And you have a picture of their clinic. Every one of the children get medication twice a day. Their drawers and closets are cleaner than mine. They are so well organized. But we had the incredible, and I count it as a privilege. Avis was there the day that we came. She knew we were coming, and she spent an hour with us explaining some of how Agape came to be. And you know, we went there to encourage. I left feeling so encouraged. Here is this woman who for 20 years, this is their 20-year anniversary, she started out in a little house. She's telling me, just be faithful. Just be faithful. And I left feeling so encouraged, like, you know what, I think I can go on. I think I can go on. This house was built on faith and trust, and sometimes it was the 11-hour things that God would just show up for them. 103 children, all HIV positive. All of them. And all of them experiencing God's unconditional love. And you know what? I used to think I know what that meant until I visited Agape House. A child disregarded not only by their parents, by their families, their communities, and even a country gripped by the fear of HIV. The attitude is, just leave them to die. To love unconditionally when it may not be returned. And before the discovery of new medications, which she said at any time the government would cut them off, she used to bury several children a week. And not one of them died alone, feeling rejected or unloved or unwanted. And you will hear more about Agape House the last Sunday when we talk about a new love. But don't believe for 1 minute that there was not a longing in these children, as happy and as healthy and as loved as they were. There was such a longing. This little girl right there took a liking to my Brighton glasses. Her name is Siri, and Siri has a couple in Italy that are longing for her. She is being actually been adopted, put together with a family in Italy, but it's been 8 months since it's just not going through. The Thai government is just very hard. This little guy up here didn't get the memo that kids love Pastor Mike. He was struggling. And this one in the middle, Pia Witt, I'll tell you what, he settled in like a child, like he had known me all of his life. There was just something, if I could have, I would have brought him home, him and an elephant. It was just precious. And there is no fear, no fear. We hear AIDS, we hear HIV, and people cringe. We watched Avis, the founder of this place, take a sucker from a little girl's mouth and put it in her mouth and then give it back to the little girl because she wanted to share her sucker. There is no fear. Perfect love casts out fear. And this place showed that unconditional, perfect love. Well, like I said, don't believe for 1 minute that there wasn't a longing. As happy and healthy and as loved as these children were, as I listened to the stories, there was a common theme throughout all of them, a longing to know who they are, a longing to wondering, is there a future for me? Will I ever get married? Can I get a job? Nobody wants to hire people with HIV. They test for HIV so that they don't hire them. A big question was, why was it me that was infected? Will my mom return? And most of them have lost one or more parents to the HIV viruses. Families have disowned them because they are infected. And the rejection that they feel is something I cannot fathom. Innocent children paying the price, the consequence for a parent's choice. And you know, all of our children pay consequences for our choices. But something about this seemed just a little bit more unfair to me. And then you have the longing of the volunteers that literally come from all over the world to love 103 children of different ages, longing to be loved. Honestly, it's just something I've had a hard time putting into words. We did go to church. And visiting the churches was amazing because the same Spirit that raised Christ from the dead, the same Spirit that lives in me, was alive and well and working in Thailand. Even if I couldn't understand it, I could feel it. And this is what their screens look like. That's the words. I couldn't tell you what that song was, but there was a longing for worshiping Jesus. During the praise and worship service, you could feel the presence of the Lord moving. I didn't know what they were singing, but I knew the Spirit was familiar. And every so often, I would recognize a tune. They would sing in Thai, and I could sing in English. And one specifically stands out to me. When they started the tune, and I could hear it, and it was Majesty. Worship his majesty. Unto Jesus be all glory, honor, and praise. And I'll tell you what, it was an incredibly special time. Though we came from totally different cultures, the longing was the same. Exalt, lift up on high the name of Jesus. Amen. And you can see here, Pastor Mike, that was the first church we visited. He wasn't the scheduled speaker, but he shared a testimony. And then in the second church that we visited in Namcham, he was the scheduled speaker. And what honor and hospitality they showed us. I mean, we were treated like royalty. It was beautiful. At one point I told my husband, I said, they are so hospitable. I am just hostile. I'm not hospitable, I'm hostile. I was very convicted, such loving. Anything they had, they would give to you. And there's one, isn't that precious? This is one of my struggles in Thailand, though. Look at how much taller I am than all of those people. He was one of the founders of the Namcham Church, and just you could see Jesus, just a solid man. And there's some. We got into the word. We didn't know what we were singing, but we got into the worship services. And Pastor Mike up there with his interpreter, Chalumchai, and Pastor Mike made the Thai people laugh through an interpreter. Ray McDonald said, that's impossible to make jokes through an interpreter, but he did it. It was great. It was just a very blessed time. Like I said, it just... You knew that the Spirit was the same, and though we couldn't understand, it was very, very precious. Jesus said in John chapter 17, he said, his disciples are not of this world. The Thai word for foreigner is farang. And when we were around, you would hear that word a lot. We were in Thailand, but we were not of it. And what was normal for the culture seemed strange to us. And after this trip, I get the meaning just a little bit more about being in the world, but not of it. If you've ever traveled to a foreign country, it doesn't take long to realize that you are the minority, and all that is familiar is not there. You can't understand the language. You can't read the language. Not to mention, I was taller than everyone else. You have to order your food by pictures, and it doesn't ever come looking like your picture. And as you can see right here, your food looks back at you. This one up here, one of us ended up in the emergency room for their food choices. It wasn't me. But he decided that he was going to venture out and try a little water snake, and it bit him back. So, yeah. So he had a little unplanned rest. And but get this. In Thailand, a trip to the emergency room, 5 medications was $55. You couldn't walk through the door for that here. Okay, in this little corner right here is bugs, and I ate those. I did. I had a picture, but we couldn't find it, of me eating. Yes, I did. I ate the bugs. I thought, Lord, you brought me to Thailand. I'm experiencing everything. And these were actually, I didn't eat the ones on the side of the road, but these were prepared from the lady that we stayed in at the Namcham village, and Ray had given them to her, and you would have thought you'd given her $1 million. I mean, they were one of the wealthier families in this particular area, and to get these bugs was such a treat, and so she serves them up so beautifully. I thought, I'm going for it. I did. Yep, I did. I also ate water buffalo skin, and yeah, that was kind of intense. I chewed it for a week. So you're in the world, you're in Thailand, but you're not of it. You have weird food. Money is totally different. Communication was almost impossible. But once I figured out that 100 baht, which looks like a $100 bill, but not really, but once I figured out that that was really only $3, I could wrap my mind around that it wasn't a $100 bill I was spending, it was actually $3. It got kind of fun because they understand how much, but after that, they pull out the big calculator with the big numbers, and you start this silent calculator war. They give you a number, you say no, you give it back with your number, and it just is silent, and man, that was gratifying. I don't know why, but it was just this silent war, and I walked away with it. But like I said, communication was almost impossible and you don't realize that as being American, but I had horrendous bug bites on my foot, and I have to go into a pharmacist and expose my whole bug bites and try to explain what itching was, and the things that you take for granted here, in your own country where you're familiar with, and I found myself longing for the familiar, and even a Coke can became comfort. You can see McDonald's, he's whining. We went to a pizza place, New York pizza place in Thailand. This was toward the end of our trip, and I am not exaggerating. Every one of us, all 8 of us, were moaning because it was we know what we're eating. And I was saying to them the last night, there is a longing for home. I felt that longing for home. I felt the longing for familiar. And I said, would it be okay if when I pass through the gates and I come to customs, if I stand up and sing, I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free? And I thought, no, I think I'll stand up and I'll sing, I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know it's beef. Yeah, they got a kick out of that too, but that's to the point where I was. The food, don't ask, don't tell. What you don't know doesn't hurt you. So Thailand is a fascinating place. It really was. And like I said, I cannot begin to tell you everything we experienced, but I would not want to sink my roots down in there. And you know what? This is how we're to feel about the world. There is nothing wrong with enjoying God and his blessings that he freely bestows on us. Nothing. But if we don't hold the things of this life loosely, and our longing isn't for God himself and being in heaven with him, if that isn't our goal, we are holding on to a very shallow form of Christianity. If we live for just the good life here that being a disciple gives us now, we will not last 1 minute under persecution and suffering, or the temptation to indulge in fleshly desires. The only thing that can give us an endurance to suffer and to seek holiness in this world is to live as a pilgrim with a longing to make heaven our home. 1 Peter 2:11 says, "Dear friends, I urge you as foreigners, or farang, and exiles to abstain from sinful desires which war against your soul." The Living Bible puts it this way: "Dear brothers, you are only visitors here, and since your real home is in heaven, I beg you, keep away from the evil pleasures of this world. They are not for you. They fight against your very soul." Our very longing, our greatest longing, should be to make heaven our home. And doing what we must do to secure that. Keep away from evil desires. Keep away from the things of this world that are sinful. As I was going over my thoughts and I'm thinking of all this, I couldn't help it. The song over and over and over in my mind kept going, and some of you are going to recognize it, but it's an old Jim Reeves song. "This world is not my home. I'm just passing through. My treasures are laid up somewhere beyond the blue. The angels beckon me from heaven's open door, and I can't feel at home in this world anymore. Oh Lord, you know I have no friend like you. And if heaven's not my home, then Lord, what will I do? At the end of Paul's life, he put it like this. And the time has come for my departure. I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. I have kept the faith. Now there is in store for me the crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous Lord, the righteous judge will award me on that day. And not only to me, here's the good news, but to all those who have longed for his appearing.